Hi and welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk about the US. Joe Biden, sometime in August this month only, said you don't need to repay home loans till Feb 2021. Till Feb 2021, and then they've also clarified, and it is very likely that it would go to January 2022, right? So now look at many things. If you have a student loan, they have done two things. They have reset the interest to zero, so you don't pay interest till January 2022. And if you do repay the loan, it will be offset against your loan and not against the interest. Of course, I think like all bankers, they would have a clause saying you did not tell us that we have to apply towards the principal. So in case you are a student in the US and you are repaying the loan, you're lucky enough to have an income to repay the loan, please repay the loan and reduce your principal, but please tell your lender that you want to reduce the principal. Here is not giving advice, I am doing something else. Now everybody, when you go and ask should I repay the loan, especially when the interest rate is zero, the answer is fairly obviously no, because why should you repay when the interest rates are zero? Because if you have money and you have a, say, credit card debt which is at a high rate, you might as well pay the money off there. This is not accruing any interest, because during this period that you are not paying, it's not even accruing interest, because Indian waivers were not like this. Indian waivers where they were incurring interest and you had a choice of whether to pay the interest now or pay it later. That's all. There was no interest waiver, right? So what is your choice? Obviously, you need to create an emergency fund. If you have not created an emergency fund, create an emergency fund. Tomorrow, when you have more money, you can just use that whole emergency fund and repay the student loan, because there is no interest being incurred. Second, repay the loan if you have nothing else to do with the money. If you have other high cost credit cards, get rid of them, get rid of that debt. Use any method, use the snowball method, use the avalanche method. Snowball is when you start paying the small amounts first, but I prefer paying the bigger interest rate first. If I have two loans, one is a small loan, say of 50,000 rupees but carrying 18% interest, versus another big loan of 6 lakhs which is carrying 11% interest, I would rather pay the small loan off first, right? So I would do that. And if I can continue, I'll continue. Now I'm coming to the real gist of it. Nobody has ever thought of what happens to the lending company. Now, if I'm a small loan giving company which gives educational loans, I'm totally dependent on the educational loan repayment and the interest that people pay. Now, for 2 years, if the government of US says you don't have to pay interest, you don't have to pay principal, has anybody ever applied their mind to what happens to such companies? Because we see Indian politicians doing that, saying, no school fees will be levied on kids, right? That's fantastic. But what happens to the school's cash flow? From where will the school pay salary? Not everybody is Government of India dependent and saying, oh, don't worry. If nothing else, the government will pay our salaries. This is not going to have a private sector school. I know a person who is a massage guy, who's masseur, and whose wife has lost her job in Kerala because the school did not have money to pay her salaries. No, it's not a great job at all, right? Who wants to work in the private sector in Kerala, because the companies may not be treating her well. But anyway, that apart. There is a moral hazard of telling the people that you need not repay the loan. Now, if I were to invest in a share of a company which is giving educational loans only, I would be very worried. I would not want to invest in such a company. So the PE of that company will keep going down. So if a company is listed and the company is in the business of giving student loans, today I would be very worried, because tomorrow they can do something populist like this in India also and say, oh, no interest can be charged. What do I tell my shareholders? What do I tell my teachers if I can't charge fees to my students? How do I pay salaries, right? Please think of all that, right? The government of India won't, but you have to worry about that while investing. So anything which you think is delicate, where the government is likely to interfere, like in say, if you're running something like a Grameen bank and you're doing very well, suddenly the government could come and say, state government could come and say, anybody could come and say, okay, from tomorrow you cannot lend here, or even worse, from tomorrow you cannot collect here, right? So you have to consider all that. You have to consider the moral hazard of telling people don't pay, because it means it gives them a habit of saying, oh, we will not pay. It's much better to deal with it on an individual basis. Make sure there is no such moral hazard which the US is doing. The US is waiving off interest. What is the incentive for a person to pay on time? They should give an incentive also. It has to be a carrot and stick policy, and you know where carrot and stick works, right? It works only for a donkey, which is going to look at the carrot and also be worried about the pain in the butt that it is getting by the whacking, right? So if they don't have a carrot and stick policy, it's not going to, it's going to create a moral hazard problem of people not paying. In fact, there are big responsible websites also saying don't repay the loan, you have to create your retirement kitty, you have to prioritize other things, there are other loans which are pending at higher cost. So it's going to hurt a lot, and this is this huge moral hazard of why should I repay my loan at all? I know that the government will come out with a waiver once in a while. Same thing used to happen with farm loans in India, but now things have changed, right? So as a regulator, there is nothing you can do, but as a government, they should not create such a moral hazard for a guy who is paying or a girl who is paying. Going forward, they'll either not take the loan or they will not repay. They will wait till the last minute and then decide to repay. Thank you.